Don't ask me hard questions.
I have one more question.
We're live.
Who should be taking comments from?
Awesome. And Aga.
Who is taking comments from the viewers on Facebook? Like comments. I mean,
We will do it, Alex. We'll do it. It's fixed.
You will
Yeah.
do it.
All right, you're live.
It's coming.
It will come to me. Okay. Aga, you can start. Is it live? Oh, is it? Okay. Okay. Hello, everyone. Thank you very much for joining us tonight, and for the and welcome to our panel discussion today with our wonderful speakers that I will introduce to you in a few moments. The panel is entitled "Panel Survivors: Sexual Violence Against Women." And so we will tonight expand on the topic of sexual violence, how it is used as a war weapon and crime against humanity, including men, women, children, and LGBTQ+ community. We will in particular focus on women, and in particular dedicate this panel to SEMA Ukraine, a network of female fighters and campaigners who currently fight with the Russian oppressor. SEMA is the Ukrainian network of women affected by violence, and they exist in Ukraine since 2019. They have actively campaigned to support women who went through sexual violence in Ukraine. They also raised general awareness in the society and in government decision makers about how important it is to make lawful changes and to support sexual violence survivors, victims. I would like Alex to share the manifest that SEMA Ukraine left on the Facebook page, where they also introduce themselves to us, and they will probably join us tonight as well.
They already join us.
They already join us. Oh, fantastic.
Yes, Tatiana is with us, so maybe we can start from.
Yeah, so instead of me reading the manifest, they can actually tell us about themselves, and I'm really grateful that they were able to join us from Ukraine and from the Donieck area. Welcome. So maybe over to you then, Tatiana.
So maybe Zhenya, could you please translate? Tatiana is not speaking English well, so if we can support her from the beginning, like to ask her in Ukrainian and then translate to English, it would be great.
No, English no.
Добрий вечір, Тетяна. Я тут допомогти вам. Я на українській, трошки на російській розмовляю, так що я надіюсь, ми один одного зможемо зрозуміти.
Так, звичайно. Російською, українською, звичайно, я розумію. Ми з Людмилою.
Якби ви могли нам розказати трошки про вас і чим ви займаєтеся, і про що ви хочете сьогодні поговорити, і тоді я зможу перевести.
Ви знаєте, сьогодні нам говорити дуже важко, тому що ми з Людмилою керуємо загоном, який складається із 470 чоловіків, і ми в повному оточенні без зброї. Нас щоночі бомблять. Такого міста, як Чернігів, яке поряд, немає. Всі під'їзди до Києва через наше місто, яке оточене ворогом Росією з усіх боків. У нас дійшло до того, що розбомблені по сусідству пологовий будинок з мамками. У нас лікаря розстріляли серед білого дня за те, що він їхав просто на роботу. У нас в прямому сенсі зараз ад на землі. Бомблять щоденно, щоночі. У нас немає зброї. Ми відрізані від шляхів на Київ, на Чернігів. І Ми знаємо тільки, володіємо інформацією завдяки Фейсбуку, скільки ворожих танків іде. І ми тільки відслідковуємо, що навколо нас стала колона 200 танків Російської Федерації, стала колона 180 танків Російської Федерації. Але в нас немає зброї, і ми дбаємо весь світ над Україною хоча б небо, тому що стираються з лиця землі міста.
Я розумію, дякую. So we have Tatiana and Lyudmila with us tonight, and Tatiana has told me that they are in a town in Donetsk and they are surrounded and they are without weapons. It is a really difficult situation. They said that they are very isolated as a lot of the military personnel are going through their town. They again reiterated that it's a terrifying situation and the only way to describe it is hell on earth. Children's and obstetrics wing was bombed, and she also said that a doctor was killed in broad daylight on the way to work, and the only thing that they're asking for at the moment is to close the skies, as they are afraid that they're being obliterated. Is there anything specific that we'd like to ask Tatiana, maybe about?
So maybe we can share with Tatiana, like we're trying to work and support them internationally. This event is dedicated to them, like a fully. We decide to talk more about sexual violence because we already know like this is a problem, this ongoing problem since the beginning of the invasion in 2014, and the problem is increasing in Ukraine and Poland when people are moving to Poland. So that's the reason why we decide to talk about this topic. However, we're still working to send to them this coming week some medical support and press or politician and spread the word and talk about situation in Ukraine as much as possible.
Агнєшка розповідає, що сьогодні цей вечір присвячений вашій організації. Вони будуть старатися направити пресу, журналістів в ваш район. І сьогодні вони хочуть поговорити про сексуальне насильство і як це впливає на жінок, і як це впливає, як це все проходить вже з 2014 року. Так що приблизно про це ми будемо говорити сьогодні. Yeah.
So as they know, like we invite today Farida and other researcher and historian and myself to talk more about rape as a weapon of war. However, the reason of this event is to support financially, because during this event, everybody can send financial support to SEMA, and they receive some money. And also we're still working of some additional stuff what we hope we can send to them as a support system. Mm-hmm. Still trying to push more attention to the topic, like this war need to end soon.
Mm-hmm. Організація SEMA буде збирати сьогодні гроші на протязі цього вечора, і взагалі вони стараються зібрати ще більше, щоб послати вам і, ну, як сказала, з журналістками, щоб більше на це, щоб вони, щоб, я вибачаюсь, це дуже емоціонально для мене теж говорити про це. Одним словом, будемо старатися допомагати, як можемо.
Ви знаєте, справа в тому, що серед жінок, які 3 роки працювали і співпрацювали із СЕМою, лише одна жінка змогла виїхати за кордон у Польщу. Вся біда в тому, що жінки, які уже раз зазнали тортури, насилля з боку представників Російської Федерації, вони повторно попали в цей ад, але він набагато страшніший сьогодні, чим починаючи з 2014 року. І ми всі залишились на місцях, ми зізвонимось. Слава Богу, на сьогодні ми всі члени СЕМА Україна живі. Так? Але у нас катастрофічно скрутна ситуація у кожної.
Загроза сім'ї нашій, нашим дітям і онукам за те, що ми співпрацювали і співпрацюємо з СЕМою. Загроза для наших дітей та онуків. І ми дуже боїмося за своїх дітей, але можливості нам немає їх вивезти. І ми залишаємося під окупацією і сам на сам з ворогом.
Yeah. So they said that because of their work with SEMA Ukraine, they've been targeted and that they're really scared for their children and their grandchildren. And they're currently not able, or they don't see a way for them to leave the area, obviously. And they said that out of the 3 women that did work with SEMA, only 1 has been able to leave. And the specific horror is that for a lot of the women who have lived through 2014's events, this is now happening again. So there's a lot of re-traumatization that's currently going on in the area.
We're trying to talk about this topic today. One of the Polish journalists, he published an article, interview about the situation in Ukraine, about SEMA people. So we are aware what's going on, and we really try to highlight this atrocity, because you cannot say this in a different way.
Sorry, you can also ask, like, what would they want? What would they want to tell us? In like what appeal? We can see the movies. Someone from our organization can repost their movie on the group chat. What would, if now they have the chance to talk to us, what is it that they want to tell us and that we tell others as well in our communities?
А як ви бачите якось, щоб саме Польща могла вам допомогти інформацією, то що вони зараз збирають гроші, але якось вони можуть щось зробити з Польщі, на вашу думку?
На нашу думку, зробити конкретно для СЕМА Україна, чи конкретно зробити для нас, чи для всіх жінок? Тому що, ви розумієте, якщо для жінок у загальному, то найкращий варіант би був, якби ви мали можливість перерахувати на картки кошти кожній жінці, тому що всі ми зараз зайняті. Одна дітей приютила, багато дітей утримує. Є жінки, які працюють з пораненими, з початку війни не були вдома в Олександрійській лікарні, наші члени. Ми з Людою створили добровільчий загон, свою роботу тут робимо. Якщо для жінок СЕМи, якщо для нас, то нам треба швидка допомога. Можна без обладнання, але нам потрібна швидка допомога. Для надання домедичної допомоги і ліки, ноші треба. Нам оце вкрай треба.
So she said that specifically for SEMA, what they're looking for is...
Я вибачаюсь, якби я вам зараз можу показати, чим ми раненим допомагаємо. Принеси на вірьовка. Я вам зараз покажу, щоб ви розуміли, наскільки в нас нічого немає.
She is going to show what they're currently treating wounded people with, just to prove a point that really they are doing everything they can with practically nothing.
This coming Thursday, a big convoy is going to Ukraine with medical and medical supplies, medication and medical supplies. So this is a few days more. However, I understand a
Where in
pressure.
Ukraine?
Yes, to
I
them,
have
to
a-
them, directly
I-
to them.
Viola, I had one question that where they are situated now, Tatiana and other people, are they safe there or not?
Оце наші турнікети, оце цим ми перев'язуємо
Дручочок.
дручечки, палички, оце наші турнікети. В нас немає саморобні, так? Оце з вікон обмотка, це ми ранених
Ой, Боже.
рятуємо цим, розумієте? В нас в нас нічого немає.
Yeah, so yeah, she's just saying that they're DIYing their own tourniquets using just
Yeah.
twigs and window ties and basically anything that's available to hand.
Basically, they don't have anything.
Zhenya, could you please tell them like this transportation is coming this week? Medication and medical supplies is.
Віола каже, що в четвер до вас їде допомога, там будуть і медичні медикаменти і ліки теж. В четвер.
Дякуємо.
Farida, she wants to say something.
Well, Tatiana, first of all, I am so glad that I see you directly and your friend, and I hope also, Irina, it's fine. I was in contact with Vladimir, so I hope all of you are safe in those moments, first of all. Secondly, I just want to know, are there any kind of agency, international agency inside that's supporting you with medical needs or psychosocial needs in Ukrainian side?
Yes, she said.
Yeah, we have a fundraiser that we will be posting on the live chat as well and sharing with everyone as well. And we like to ask everyone to also support this fundraiser.
Right,
by
but
all the
Farida is
medication.
asking for the humanitarian organization
inside.
inside Ukraine.
Yes.
Гуманитарная помощь вам нужна ли? Она спрашивает.
Гуманітарну допомогу вам надають якісь інтернаціональні агентства?
Волонтерська організація із Ніжина вчора нам надала 10 банок дитячого харчування для малих діток і 10 пачок памперсів. Оце те, що було виділено для нас, так? Але наскільки мені відомо, то із Львова, із нашого Львова українського, до нас у місто вчора вийшло доставити вантаж з одягом, але в нас немає поки що проблем із одягом і не дуже велика проблема із харчуванням. У нас закриті аптеки, в нас немає медикаментів, у нас в лікарнях немає медикаментів.
So she said that in terms of humanitarian aids, they've received 10 tins of formula and 10 packs of diapers, but the main issue isn't actually to do with food or clothes as such, which is what is arriving. The main issue is medicine, as pharmacies are closed, and also a lack of medicine in hospitals.
Can I ask another question, please? Tatiana, do you have any contact with the SEMA, with Esther, and with the group? Are they supporting you somehow? What kind of support SEMA as a global movement is offering to you right now?
Як ви в контакті з Естер, з Семою, і взагалі, так? І як взагалі вам Сема допомагає зараз?
Значить, в контакті безпосередньо з Естер Ірина Довгань, так, але трохи в нас вийшло якесь таке дивне непорозуміння із Семою, тому що ми з Людмилою 8 березня записали звернення до Семи, щоб допомогли нам закрити небо над Україною, і нас дуже ввічливо попросили, що у вас потужне звернення, але, будь ласка, уберіть першу частину, що ви членкині СЕМа, і уберіть із звернення про закриття неба над Україною прізвище Деніса Муквеги. І після того я не знаю, як реагувати на це, тому що нам адвокація постфактум нам не потрібна, нам треба врятувати життя наших сімей і дітей сьогодні.
So she said that she is engaged with SEMA, but there was a bit of a misunderstanding. on 8th of March, when they put out a call for to close the skies, and they were asked to remove that wording from the address and a name of a specific member of SEMA. So they're not really sure where things stand now, but what they want to reiterate is what they're looking for is to save and preserve lives now rather than post factum.
Yes, thank you. Yeah.
Oh, sorry, one moment. I did want to say something that Tatiana said earlier. I just wrote down in a note. She said in terms of help in the region, there's also a way to help directly, because a lot of the women are taking in wounded people and children, and if possible, they are looking for direct funds for those women who are now supporting them.
So this transportation, what we are sending this coming Thursday, is going directly to them. This is not like a region, Ukraine, only directly to you guys.
Вона каже, Віола каже, що в четвер допомога, яка приїде, це буде вам, не просто в Україні, а прямо до вас.
Дякуємо, дякуємо.
Yeah,
І після війни ми обов'язково до нас запросимо всіх вас в Україну. І ми переможемо.
Святкувати обов'язково треба буде. She says that when we win, we're all invited for a big celebration.
Yes, yes. Hopefully. Can I?
Was soon. Maybe I will just introduce everyone, so our audience also knows who everyone is, because we haven't had the chance to do this. So just very quickly, that we have a few speakers who are experts in the topic of sexual violence, and among them is Supriti Dar, who is a Bangladeshi journalist and activist and a founder of a great blog site and a website for women to empower each other, Women's Chapter. And I went on that blog actually, and it says a platform that champions and connects women in business and women-led enterprise, which is fantastic actually, which is a little bit outside of the sexual violence itself, but it just shows how empowering your initiative is. We also have Farida Rushidi, sorry if I'm not pronouncing right, but thank you for joining us tonight. She is a medical doctor and founder of Kosovo Center for the Rehabilitation of Torture Victims. And she's a pioneering human rights activist in Kosovo. So she will talk about the war in Kosovo to us later. And then we have also Anna Müller, who is an assistant professor at University of Michigan, and her topic concentrates on sexual violence in Holocaust and other armed conflicts in Second World War and after Second World War. We have also Joanna Ostrowska, who is a Polish researcher and journalist, and she also talks about victims of Holocaust, but also about forgotten maybe minorities. There's a bit of overlap, I believe, between Anna's and Joanna's work, and it will be also interesting to see the historic perspective. And finally, Viola, who initiated the panel. Viola is joining us from the US, from New York, and she recently published her book, Rape, A History of Shame, Diary of the Survivors, which is a comprehensive report of war rape survivor syndrome and a global testimony of sexual violence survivors. So thank you for coming. And we also have Zhenya, who is our wonderful translator. Thank you very much, Zhenya, for your time and big work. And Tatiana and Ludmila from SEMA, who we already introduced. And thank you very much that you can be here with us. And it's really good to see you. And thank you for your time and everything that you are doing. I prepared questions, but Farida, you also wanted to ask a question. So let's carry on with what you wanted to ask as well to Tatiana.
Indeed, I just wanted to make sure to Tatiana and to Ludmila that as a country, as a society, we are quite concerned what is happening in Ukraine. We have full solidarity with your situation because Ukraine war is just reminding our war in 1999. And majority of the survivors that you met in Kosovo, they were so much triggered and they were so much felt your situation that I could say that most of them was asking for psychological treatment because they was really, really feeling a war comparing with what is happening and the stories and the social media you have it there. What we did as an organization, of course, we was having a statement, we was trying to mobilize social media. Our parliament is so pro-Ukraine. Already they had it a session in parliament with a hashtag that you already, I was with Vladimir in contact and he informed me that we could use only certain information from Ukraine and we use this hashtag like standing with Ukraine, stop Russian aggression, Ukraine under attack, stop Russia, and get only official news from Ukraine. Also in our media, we had it very often some MPs from Ukraine, some ladies MPs who was directly sharing the concern and the situation is going in Ukraine right now. Immediately after attack, our state already declared sanction to Russian products and cooperation. We didn't have good cooperation with Serbia even previously, but they made it that through the resolution in our parliament, just to show that we stand with Europe, we stand with Ukraine, and our state already is welcoming 20 journalists as a first group to be sheltered in Kosovo, and our Prime Minister was very generous to accept. There are some voice that we will have soon, first Ukrainian refugees, but as a state, we declared that we will take care for 5,000 refugees in Kosovo. Because as I told you, we feel the situation and we are really, all our houses are open to receive any families or wounded mother and children, because I worked in a border area, I worked with the Kosovo refugees, and I could imagine what are you facing right now, what is your situation, because similar situation was in Kosovo some years ago. So in that perspective, I just wanted to know how we can support you directly. I could see that there is a huge need for medical supply. A basic need, I can say, because in those war circumstances, you cannot pretend to send something which can be used in a hospital, but something which is a first aid, first medical aid. And I think we could think in the country level what we could collect in order to send there. And perhaps Viola or somebody else could support us to find a way how we can transfer those first.
Yeah, we have already connections, so we will talk later. I will let you know details. Mm-hmm.
Second one, I thought that if we could have any kind of a video message or something which can support for psychological aid, because I can imagine that now you are under the uniform, military uniform, and it's a lot of adrenaline and protection in our mind, but in the same time, you are human being, you are seeing dead people, you are seeing family member who might be at risk, and you are also affected from all those circumstances. So in that perspective, as an organization, perhaps we could think how we could support you. And you know the best what we could do, both Tatiana and Ludmila and Irena and Vladimir, they visited Kosovo Rehabilitation Center for Torture Victims on 2019, and we already was planning to establish cooperation and to support each other. So what we could do from our side, we are open, and just tell us, or we can maybe discuss later on how we can support as a group and see how we could make your life easier right now there.
Okay, so just to summarize, to ask that besides medical supplies, how you can provide psychological support in this situation as well. Frіда питається, окрім допомоги з медикаментами, як вони можуть допомогти на психологічному, по психології, як можна вас підтримати як людей?
Просто будьте рядом з нами і згадуйте про нас, розумієте? Тому що інтернет у нас зараз, це якесь чудо, що він зараз цю хвилину є. Ми сидимо без інтернету, але нам дуже важлива на сьогодні ваша підтримка, тому що, повірте, навіть елементарний тренінг години психологічного характеру провести немає можливості. І сьогодні настільки всі сконцентровані на збереженні життя, що просто не до тренінгів. Але ми переможемо трошки пізніше, от потім нам потрібно буде все це.
Поки ми себе тримаємо в руках, ми боремося, ми чимось займаємося, нам треба триматись і показувати приклад своїм дітям та онукам, тому ми себе тримаємо. Ми плачемо так, що нас ніхто не бачив.
Tatiana saying that she's really painful for her. She said that they have to keep themselves, in their hands. When they cry, they make sure that they do it away from their children's eyes because they need to show a strong face. And the thing that's important is to feel the support, to feel that they have everyone around them. The fact that they have internet right now is a miracle. They said that's not happening, and while the psychological support needs to come at a later point, that's not a priority for now. Right now they're focusing on just getting on with the day-to-day.
Ми вишиваємо.
Поєднання. Війни і миру. Поєднання.
А это что такое? Вышивайте. А что это такое?
Вишиваємо.
Kind of cross-stitching. Yeah.
Це поєднання війни і миру. Ми вишиваємо вишиванки, щоб поїхати в Косово в таких вишиванках, в яких ми їздили до них.
Yeah, saying that this is war and peace in one. They're cross-stitching and hoping to
Oh my God, so beautiful. My God, so yes, beautiful.
They're hoping to visit Kosovo again while wearing
Yes,
their
yes,
beautiful
yes.
shirts.
So you are not alone. We're really thinking about you. We're working for you. We try to unite people, invite them, and put attention to you. Remember, you are not alone. Like, we're really fighting for you. This is our war. This is not only your war. This is for everybody. We're sharing this experience. So it's just so important to remember, like, you are not alone.
Віола каже, що у вас є наша підтримка, що ви не одні, і що це не тільки ваша війна, це і наша війна теж. І
Ви ж розумієте, коли Україна воює з Росією, то наша Чернігівська область воює з Росією і Білорусією. До нас в Чернігівську область війшли білоруські регулярні війська, які щоночі нас обстрілюють із градів і смерчів.
So she says that where they are in the Chernihivska region, it's not just a fight with Russia, it's also a fight with Belarus.
From Belarus.
Yeah, the Belarusian troops have now entered the territory, and that they're firing through the night as well.
Yeah, so they are not feeling never secure, isn't it?
Yeah. It's horrible. Horrible. And we don't know when it's going to be end,
But I think like we need to focus on things what we can do for you and really try to find some solution day by day, step by step, and support you. That's our goal, like our work and support plan for everybody here.
Зараз треба, ми всі концентруємося на тому, як вам допомогти в цій ситуації.
Дякуємо.
Дякуємо.
Нам дуже важлива ваша підтримка. Просто знати, що ви є.
She says that the support is really important, and just feeling and knowing that everyone's there for them is really, really helpful.
Yes.
So Tatiana, are there any channels of communication. There are trucks who can enter in your place when you are located, and you could receive freely some aid support. If we could, I mean, we will work on that, but just to be sure that to not expose you at risk whenever you are located.
So we know that there are ways of getting there. We probably should, Tatiana can answer as much as she can, but I think she shouldn't also say this because it's a public event. But as Viola said, we are working on the transportation, that we know we can go through specific paths, and everyone knows that Kiev is a hub where everything happens, and thankfully it has stayed for this for nearly 3 weeks. So it will happen. It is feasible and has to happen as soon as we can. Yes. So, yes.
I will provide all information, Farida, so
okay.
I will send you later.
Okay.
And actually, it is extremely powerful to know that there are those network of people who are helping in many places in Ukraine. That people communicate to each other without explicitly saying where everyone is, and but it is still working. So if you are able, Zhenya, to say that last thing, maybe to Tatiana, we can, that will be also supportive for them.
Yeah, like let them know, like they know them in Canada, in United States, in South America, in Africa, like literally everywhere. We're talking to everybody about their situation, particularly about them.
Yes.
Віола каже, що про вашу ситуацію вони говорять з багатьма іншими в Америці, в Канаді, по всьому світі. І всі знають не тільки про ситуацію в Україні, але специфічно про вашу ситуацію теж. Так що у вас є підтримка всіх нас.
Дякуємо. Дякуємо.
Thank you, Tatiana and Ludmila. I hope that you can also stay with us when we talk about also other aspects of sexual violence or violence against women, that we invited the speakers to even briefly and in context of the situation of Ukraine, say about how it was in Kosovo, how it is now in Kosovo, so that the future is more positive, or how we can work towards this positive future, how it was in Bangladesh, and what was the historic perspective. And here actually in the preparation of this panel discussion, Viola gave us a fantastic introduction to all the aspects. And today we can talk a little bit more, hear from you about the details. So Preeti, maybe we can start with you. About the war in Bangladesh, how it was then, how it is now, what made you start the blog site, but also tell us what Birangonas, I hope I pronounced this correctly, tell us about that situation, because it is very important.
Yeah, thank you so much for inviting me today, and I'm very glad to see Tatiana and what's her name, Ludmila? It's very nice to meet you. Мне очень приятно вас смотреть. So we had, actually we went through the same situation was going through now in Ukraine. And every time when war happens in any country, you know, the most affected are women and children. So, and we had war in 1971, 50 years ago, but still we are bearing the trauma still now, because it was war, 9-month-long war, and we lost 3 million people. Bangladesh, if you know the Bangladesh, where is situated Bangladesh, it's a small country, very small country, but with a big population. So, and we were separated during 1947, India and Pakistan, and Bangladesh was part of Pakistan that time in 47. But then in 71, we had war with Pakistan, West Pakistan. We were East Pakistan and West Pakistan. So it was, you know, like civil war. But after 9 months, we had, we won the fight, and we won our independence from that war. And 200,000 women, it's official number, 200,000 women were raped during the war, during 9 months old war. But unofficially, it is, you know, more than 200,000. Some says that it's 400,000, but we don't know. But it was huge number. And they were raped, they were killed, tortured, and whatever they could do, army, you know. So in the wartime, they did it. And not only the Pakistani army did the raped women or killed them, we had collaborators also. It also exists in every war. So I think in Russia, Ukraine war, there are collaborators also. But it's very unfortunate things that after 50 years, you know, in 21st century, we are seeing the same situation in somewhere who were very close to us. And we had, after the war, the women who were raped during the war, and they were called as Birangana, or the then president declared them as a Birangana. Birangana means war of heroine, or heroine of war, maybe. I'm not sure. Heroine of war, or war heroines, yes, war heroines. But it was also humiliating in the word, you know, Birangana, because when you were saying Birangana, you were pointing to them that they were raped. So it also, you know, carried the word stigma and taboo and other things. So lots of women who were raped that time, they did suicide, and because they were not accepted in their society, not accepted in the family, and so they had nothing, no option in front of them. So they did suicide, and many women were pregnant by this army because they were raped for months, and that those children were you know, they were adopted by the international community after the war. But, you know, many years, maybe 30 years, we didn't say anything about those women who sacrificed their lives, who sacrificed their honors during the war. We only talked about the war heroes who fought for our land, fought for our independence, but we didn't know about the women. So they were untold. And maybe it's 25 years ago that our current government, when they came to power, 25 years ago, so it started talking, you know, they started talking, this women who were raped, because they were so brave, so they came forward and they started talking. So, you know, after this, situation has been changed a lot, because, and it was a demand that we won't say them Birangana, they will be like freedom fighter, they will be labeled as freedom fighter, and they will get the same benefit from our government benefits they will get. Before that, they didn't get any money from government. So now there are 400, more than 400,000 were, you know, enlisted as a raped women and during the war. So they got the money, they got the, but still now we have long way to go because the trauma, and it's not only their trauma who were raped that time in 1971, they carried the trauma, with them, and they spread it within us also, because we are living after 50 years. We were a child that time. I especially was child during the war, and I carried the trauma because I worked with them as a journalist. I worked with many women who were raped during the war. And when I, heard their stories, it was unbearable. I couldn't carry those stories. It was, it's so pathetic. So, how can I say that? It's, for me, it was so difficult to write their story, as a journalist, because I'm a human being also, and I'm a woman. I can feel their pain. So, and when every word has the same, they keep the same things, and then they take with them, and they dishonor the women because it's their, you told me before that it's the weapon of the war, because when they can rape women, dishonor women, it's their one of the great weapons. So civilized or uncivilized doesn't matter here. So in every civilized country also they dishonor the women. So when war comes, it's women are being victimized that time. So we have to think about this when we work with SEMA project, with SEMA network, that people are coming from Ukraine now. I met lots of people here in my city in Sweden, and I talked to them personally. So I know that they are traumatized. They couldn't talk even with me. I met, I have some friends here, Russian spoken friends, as I studied in Russia and I know Russian language. So, and we were together, and we were, attending the demonstration against the war, and we are talking, we are trying to help, trying to reach those people who need help here. And they're coming with trauma, big trauma. So we have to work on this, because yes, there are lots of countries now sending the supplies, medical supplies, other supports maybe, but we have to take care of their mental things also. Thank you. Maybe I'll talk again.
Thank you very much. Yes, this psychological support was something that also was mentioned before, and we experienced this also in Poland. And luckily, so far, local governments, councils are well, at least writing that they're looking after they're quite sensitive about the topic of, because it's mostly women and children who are coming to Poland and other countries, and that they need special mental support as well.
And it reminded me, that 71, I was a small child, but I heard about the story and I know the scenario. So it reminded me, the war in 71 or 22. There is no difference. People are fleeing, and we also fled after when my father was killed during the war. And after that, my mother was supposed to carry 4 children and just flee away. We went to India that time. So I know the situation, how this trauma looks like.
Thank you. Farida, would you be able to move on from that to Kosovo? Such a long distance, so many years later, but you said this already. It happened later as well. I was in Kosovo in 2005, and and a beautiful, like really one of my favorite countries, and people are amazing, but so diverse as well. And but please tell us how it was in the 90s. Like, we all remember how it was, but you were there, so please have a few moments about this now.
You have to unmute, Farida.
I prepared a presentation, but since we have Tatiana and Ludmila directly in the session, I thought I could just share some figures and maybe just to bring some perspective how we have to fight after the war. Hopefully the war will stop soon in Ukraine. Nobody don't knows, but we all pray and we are working in that direction, that hopefully it will have soon one end. But for us as a country, being around 2 million, even not 2 million, around 1,800,000 people, more than 13,000 civilian was passing away from them, majority Albanian. And a lot of missing people still, around more than 1,600 people are still missing from a war of 1999. Over 1 million people fled the country. So for that reason, I said that the situation in Ukraine, it needs triggering our trauma, because when we saw those colonists, refugees passing the border, really it reminds our nation how we fled to different countries. During the wartime, I was finishing my specialization in Albania, and for the first time, I start as Tatiana and Ludmila doing now. I start to collect some kind of medication, some kind of drugs, which could be applicable directly in the field, and sending inside in Kosovo. In that period of time, it was an organization called Albania Rehabilitation Center for Torture Victims who was inviting me to provide some medication. Those medications that were donated from western part of the world. And we was trying to select those kind of medication and send in the field. And we was trying really to find a basic medication, because sometimes we had a package, different kind of variety of medication that they cannot be used from a paramedic person. So what we was trying to select those medications that could be used also from a person which is not a doctor. And then I went to this organization because this organization started to receive first Kosovo refugees in Albania, in Tirana. And in that, paradoxically, in that period of time, I was finishing my specialization in gastroenterology. And in the same time, I went as a part-time volunteer to work as a pharmacist in this kind of organization, trying to administrate some kind of medical aid. Of course, majority of people who was fleeing the country, they were without house, without any support. Albania was very poor state, was unable to provide any service. And soon they said, are you willing? They asked me to go in the border to receive refugees and work with UNICEF, because I had some kind of trainings, how to support children, traumatized children and families. And I went to work on the border. When I went to work on the border, I could say that it was a time that I could feel really with Tatiana and Ludmila, the vibe, because I was working day and night. I was traumatized by myself, because when you see your nation in that kind of situation, that people was coming wounded without any kind of medical support, children who lose parents, parents who lose their children, or old person who forget the proteza in a bathroom and he didn't know where he is. He didn't have it sense that he moved to another countries. And then the most, I think, experience which led to me a mark, a fingerprint in my brain, it was meeting survivor of sexual violence. Of course, as a medical doctor, you have some kind of knowledge what is a rape, what are the consequences of rape. But the rape in the war circumstances used as a weapon of the war is the most terrifying experience that could happen to the human being. And working in camps in Caucasus, in the border Albania and Kosovo. I met some of those women who they didn't brought the experience. They was discussing about their children needs, about the family needs. And then when they created this, then when they feel safe, they start just to bring peace and beds. And to be open as a medical doctors, I was trying to provide medical aid, but as well as some psychological counseling. And I was not prepared to hear such stories because the stories were so terrifying stories that sometimes you cannot think that human can make such a wrong things to the human. And for me, all of these experiences was really crucial to reorient my career, my life career, because I was dreaming to be a gastroenterologist. That was my dream in 1999. But then hearing those stories, hearing a lot of sad experiences from a family, I thought it is so important to establish a safe space when survivors of sexual violence, but also other torture and traumatized people might come and just share their stories. So we started in September 1999 to establish an organization in Kosovo with idea to create a safe place when survivors of sexual violence could freely express themselves, because I think in Ukraine society it's much more open, but in our society there was quite a lot of taboo related with sexual violence. It was related with the honor of the family. So those victims who were rape victims, the concept of honor, which is completely mistake, I think. It is a patriarchal norm of societies that if you touch the woman, you touch the family, the honor of the family. Due to that, there were a lot of stigma and prejudice towards this crime, and majority of the survivors was living in silence and were afraid to discuss or share such experience with others or even with family members. So we established the organization in Pristina in the beginning with idea to create a safe space for survivors, but it was not so easy because Pristina is urban zones. The majority of the survivors were in rural areas. So it was another challenging to break the stigma and taboos in community just to approach the survivors. So what I'm trying to bring as a message here to our friend, because I know that you are living in the circumstances of the war, in every moment a bomb or something might explode in the place when you are saying and you are not safe. But I think it is also important to think even beyond the wartime, because the consequences of the war, it is also transmitted to the new generation, unfortunately. And we could see that also with the study we are doing now with epigenetic studies, that transgeneration trauma is there, and the consequences is not only to the person who is facing directly the trauma, but those consequences we could see also to the new generation who were not at all in a contact with the wartime. So for that reason, I think psychosocial and mental health is so important, because apparently when you are in the war situation, you are so much mobilized to fight and protect yourself without thinking so much about your psycho, because it is to be or not to be. And I could imagine that is a priority to be there. But in the same time, I will encourage also to think about psychosocial well-being of you, because in the end of the day, you are a human being, you are impacted from all circumstances around you. And this is so crucial also in order to maintain your good spirit and your courage and brave action that you are doing now for your nation.
Thank you so much. Zhenya, do you want to translate this maybe to Tatiana, so they can we can leave that message to them now?
Yeah, I can just do a short summary of what security and
maybe include just Bangladesh as well.
Yeah. Тільки що Супріті і Фріда розказали про їхні ситуації Супріті з Бангладеш, де була війна в 1971 році, 3 мільйони людей загинуло, і офіційний 200 тисяч людей, 200 тисяч жінок офіціально прийняв їхній парламент, були знасиловані, і вона, як журналістка, розказувала про цю травму і про дітей, які народилися після цього. І Фріда потім розказала про ситуацію в Молдові і про війну в 1999 році, і як це для неї, її життя після цього не було таким, як вона думала. Вона стала кар'єру, вибрала іншу, щоб допомагати жінкам після травми зґвалтування під час війни. І вони обоє розуміють, наскільки це тяжка ситуація не тільки з боку того, що ситуація, яка відбувається, але що жінки і діти страждають ще й з сексуальними травмами під час війни.
Це ми поки на зв'язку і поки розказували ви свої історії, ми вже викликали швидку допомогу, направили до людини, в якої передінфарктний стан, і оце контролюємо, щоб цю людину спробували якимось чином довести до лікарні і врятувати. Все робиться паралельно, тому що ми 3 неділі живемо в штабі, ми ще не були вдома ніхто.
She's saying that she's having to multitask at the moment, and that while this discussion is taking place, she's been coordinating an ambulance response for someone who is in like a pre-cardiac arrest state, and they're just trying to make sure that they're getting the help that they need. And she said that in 3 weeks she hasn't been home yet.
This is a very terrifying experience, and as we talk about it, this is a very new experience for me as well, since I'm a generation who was born between wars, probably, and we listen to these stories, and we hope that we will live in a world that doesn't have wars. So maybe we can go back to the historic perspective now. You can see Joanna and Anna, who research about Holocaust, about Second World War. That is my transgenic experience from my family, from many of us. Maybe we can start with Joanna. Would you like to say about your work, and then Anna, how you work on those historic aspects? Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much for the invitation, and thank you for this amazing opportunity to meet with you, and especially with Tatiana and Luba. And of course, I have here a full text. I wanted to say a lot about my research, but I think it's not so crucial anymore. I would love to share with you one quotation. I'm 100% sure that Anna Müller also knows this woman, knows this author. And I will try to answer, I will try to tell you more about the future. How can we help those who have survived sexual violence and protect others from experiencing it? And of course, my answer will not be perfect, will not be full, but I will try to do it. And as I said before, I wanted to start with this quotation, because this quotation comes from book One Woman in the War, written more than 30 years ago by Elaine Polch, who was a World War II rape survivor. Polch came back to Hungary, to her family after the war. She survived, and in this scene, part of the text, she tries to elucidate the first dinner with her mother and other members of her family. And I think this quotation is also some part of the answer for this question: how to help, how to support. Let me quote: "We were seated at the table. I did not even take out the little piece of sausage I had kept hidden to this point. It seemed ridiculous on this occasion. We were having tongue in tomato sauce. I looked at it, marveling. I ate it silently. They told me the Russians had raped women. Where you were too? Asked my mother. Yes, I replied, where I was too. But they didn't take you away, did they? She asked. Yes, everyone, I replied, and I kept on eating. My mother gave me a little look and said in amazement, but why did you let them? Because they hit me, I replied, and I kept on eating. I did not consider the entire matter to be either important or interesting. Someone asked airily and drolly, many times. I lost count, I said, and I kept on eating. Just think, we had lice in the cellar, my mother said. We did too, I said, but surely you didn't get infested. I did indeed. We've had lice, my mother asked. Every kind, I said, and I kept on eating. Then we talked about other things. My mother called me aside after dinner and said, my dear girl, don't tell such nasty stories. People might believe them. I looked at her. Mother, it is the truth. She began crying and put her arms around me. Then I said, Mother, I said they took everyone away. They raped every woman. You said they took away women here too. Yes, but only those who were whores. You are not one, my mother said. Then she threw herself on me and begged, my dear, tell me it is not true. All right, I said, it is not true. They took me away just to nurse the sick. End of quote. So after almost 20 days of this war in Ukraine, from my personal perspective as a historian, also as an LGBTQ plus history historian, I can say, first of all, what can we do? We should try to listen to war rape survivors' experiences. If they are ready to talk, they should have an opportunity to share their testimonies. This is, I think, the crucial method to destigmatize, to remove all association of shame. It will support not only survivors, but also us as a society full of unsolved traumas from the past and unmentioned phenomena. I agree it is really hard not only to talk, but also to listen. And second, our support should be multi-level. I mean, it should be legal assistance, medical and psychological support. So from my point of view, also, we should create, or thinking now, even now, after 20 days of this war, we should think about creating some kind of archives for the future generation. And I mean the archives of accounts, of testimonies of war rape survivors. And to the end, do not make the same mistakes from the past. This is everything for me. Thank you so much for this opportunity.
We know that there were already cases of rape and sexual violence in Ukraine, and we know also what happened in what is happening in Mariupol, in the maternity hospital. That I was reading about it today, and as a mother, I could identify with that terror fully. I could feel every part of my body when I was reading those stories, and I feel that we have to read them. but we also have to, like you say, we need to be ready to listen. So we also, I feel that we have to be also looking after ourselves to be able to listen. But it is very hard. Thank you for your input. And Anna, would you like to take over now, please?
Sure. First of all, thank you so much for inviting me for this extremely difficult, but also very important conversation. I'll try in Ukrainian to say thank you first. Українську мову я вивчав давно, але я спробую. Тетяна і Людмила, дуже дякую. Спасибі вам за все, за ваш бій. Наші серця розриваються за вас. Thank you so much for everything. First of all, again, I will try to be very brief. I will I'm scanning the presentation I prepared, and I think I will do something very different than I initially planned. First of all, I need to say that I am not an active researcher of gender and sexual violence the way Joanna Ostrowska is. Actually, I am using her work as well as work of people like Marta Hawryszko, Anna Hajkova in my classes. My research is more on carceral spaces and abuse in carceral spaces and sort of ways of coping with carceral spaces. But I've been teaching classes on sexuality, violence, and war, and I would like to approach this topic as an educator. I engage with my students in multiple conversations about war rapes, starting with Armenian genocide, which included mass rapes. We talk about the intersections of sexual war crimes and the Holocaust, the doubly unspeakable. We discuss gender violence in the context of concentration camps, from dehumanization practices through rapes, sexual slavery, killings of the pregnant women, their newborn babies, medical experimentations that violated all genders' bodily integrity and their dignity. But we also discuss the deprivation that the women and men experience, and in some places still experience daily, in oppressive conditions of camps, gulags, prisons, in terms of hygiene, the lack of intimacy, overcrowding, and general unbearable living conditions, right? And this is something that in the United States, it's still very relevant, especially if we sort of consider carceral spaces, because we've been hearing more and more in recent years, for example, about the forced sterilization of women of color in some of American prisons. And my classes usually end with Rwandan genocide. And we also read the book by Selma Leidesdorf, Surviving the Bosnian Genocide, The Women of Srebrenica Speak. And I'm going to skip sort of how we conceptualize sexual violence in class and sort of different ways we look at the problem. I will maybe just quote a psychiatrist, Ruth Seifert here, who suggests that, quote, rape is not an aggressive manifestation of sexuality, but rather a sexual manifestation of aggression. And, you know, there's a lot to be said about degradation, dehumanization, purification, right? Through rituals of degradation and also demonstrations of hegemonic and oppressive masculinities. And I'm not going to go into details about this, but one more thing I'll say, and then I will say a little more about sort of the challenges that teachers of those topics face. I would like to add that purposeful sexualization of women in various national discourses and subordination of those discourses to war purposes is also a form of gender violence. National discourses, and we actually know it very well from sort of both Polish and Ukrainian historical context, national discourses create specific images of women as iconic, patriotic, who are expected to act and behaving according to accepted social and sort of imagined national norms. But while doing this, it is this national discourse that also controls women's bodies and their sexuality. And women become a symbol of the integrity of the motherland and its protectors, And there's a whole host of issues that is linked to it. So as a teacher, as an educator of these very difficult topics, I will share a couple of reflections with you. First of all, I see that college youth is becoming more and more open to this kind of topics. When I first proposed teaching war, sexuality, and violence on my campus 4 or 5 years ago, it was looked at with certain suspicions, essentially because, you know, how can you sort of teach gender violence and Holocaust in the same time, right? The doubly unspeakable. But this is changing due to enormous work that researchers like Joanna Ostrowska has been doing. We have a problem with language. That's my, I think, one of the biggest obstacles that educators are facing. Those questions, issues are often unspeakable, and both instructors and students worry about triggering or simply saying something that is hurtful without intentions. I try to create spaces where emotions and emotional responses to difficult conversations can be voiced, but the burden and fear is real. And I feel like I've had some experience doing it, and I'm still, every time I enter a classroom, I worry about their responses, and responses can vary. And it partially also concerns the worries that we may reopen wounds, trigger something that is very hard to stop, right? We constantly deal with different levels of trauma. And how do we actually deal with trauma in classroom settings for that reasons? So I really have been sort of advocating and hoping that at some point, maybe we can organize a workshop of how to deal with trauma, how to address those difficult questions in classroom settings for, you know, educators that are involved with these topics. And the last sort of my last comment, and I will end, is that finally as teachers, and this is something I've been sort of discussing with my colleagues for at least a year, if not more, we lack primary sources. We lack stories from individuals that would help us show how survivors tell their stories, how to understand these stories, and sort of in the context of their life prior to, you know, the traumatic event, and post it, right? Sort of talking about the coping strategies. There is Viola Rebecca's book now, but we need more of that work in English. We have some primary sources in Polish, but again, we need translations into English from multiple languages. And I'm actually right now sort of getting more and more serious about this project that was put on pause for at least half a year, and now there is a bigger urgency to collect those stories, translate them into English, and use them, create some kind of educational platforms that would allow students to embrace them and study and learn from them, right? Because even right now I see from, you know, my Michigan students, their responses to my classes on violence, you sort of start organizing some kind of help for women and children in need in places like Ukrainian. So we can change, you know, the world that way. It's a small change, but, you know, it's better than nothing. So if there is anybody who is interested in collaborating on a project like this that would actually translate those voices, these stories, these documents into English, I am happy to, you know, start this conversation and move on with this project. Thank you so much for inviting me here.
Thank you so much, Anna, for your input, for everything that you said. And we all talk about trauma, and we talk about the psychological support and how to talk about it, what language to use. And actually, we also had that conversation with Viola when we were preparing for this panel about literature, how it is covered by the literature, how difficult literature that is, obviously, for obvious reasons, but how much needed it is, and for women, like that they want to listen to these stories.
Трошки зробіть нам. Женя, перекладу трошки зробіть нам.
Okay. Женя, over to you.
Одну хвилинку. Йоанна і Анна розповіли про те, що вони вивчають, над чим вони працюють. І чуть-чуть з інших сторін, але вони двоє вивчають про інструменти війни і про зґвалтування як інструмент війни. І вони дуже хочуть допомогти жінкам, допомогти світу зрозуміти, як цей інструмент війни завжди є, коли проходить війна, і що вже є історії з України, що це відбувається і в Україні, і про це ніхто не говорить, тому що це не виглядає настільки важливо світу, як активна війна, але вони двоє розуміють і хочуть допомогти всім знати, як це впливає на жінок. Yeah, Agnieszka, maybe back to you.
No, I was waiting. Maybe Tatiana wanted to say something, but it is okay. Viola, would you be able to remind the book that was, you showed it to me, it's a big book written in Kosovan, Albanian, English, and a few other languages. And maybe later in a shared post, we can also share literature with others that is on the topic. And your contribution, ladies, obviously will be fantastic to such a post as well. And so, Viola, also please tell us about your book, your project, and what you do within your research as well. Thank you.
So I don't think so. Like I am able to share with all of you everything because it's like a lot to share. However, you mentioned the book what Kosovo Rehabilitation Center just released last year, Beyond Pain Towards Courage. And that is absolutely unique, a book about stories from the Kosovo War, from women and men. Because when we're talking about sexual violence during the war, we need to remember like that's affecting everybody. This is not only related to women, mostly of course, and girls and children. However, men, they are affected by this torture and rape as well. So that's the story from the Kosovo. I hope we can get some chance to, get the book, not only in Kosovo, but all over Europe. I think that would be really useful for an educator university to really discuss this topic deeper for readers. So you need to work on translation and, publishing company, maybe in Poland, they will be willing to cooperate with you. I hope so. So talking about myself, I can only share right now, like I am a psychoanalyst and that's my major work. And I am working with sexual violence for over 20 years. My family was deeply affected by Holocaust and rape during Holocaust is my personal family story, meaning my grandmother and my auntie, they were subjected to sexual violence. And that is major reason why I started doing my research and working on the field, working all over places, because I literally went all over places and I was able to talk and work with survivors of sexual violence in many different post-war areas, Congo, Rwanda. I am cooperating with Kosovo. I am collecting story from Sudan. I am collecting story from Uganda and more. So I can say right now is probably over 230 stories from all over places. And the story with different backgrounds, different time frame, different context, they are the same. We are still dealing with the same violence. We are still dealing with the same consequences of violence. We are still dealing with shame. We are still dealing with trauma, war trauma, and consequences of the sexual violence during the war. And we are still dealing with social silence and re-victimization process. Even now, in 2020 right now, we are still need to convince people, like this is the topic, this is the problem. We need to discuss this. We need to put responsibility on the perpetrator's shoulder, not on victims. And we need to punish them, and we need to bring these cases to the right space, to the international court, because we need to remember, like any kind of sexual violence during the war is the crime against humanity. So of course, I recommend my book, Rape: A History of Shame, Diary of the Survivors. And I hope we can build this connection, mostly international, and exchange information, build society where we will be more aware of the really complex consequences of the sexual violence during the war, because this is not only about individual story, what is problematic itself, this is about family, this is about society, and that's also about international community. This is huge problem for everyone and everywhere. Still, it's still ongoing problem. I think maybe that is time. We have like a few minutes left to discuss some question from the audience right now.
We have one question from Kasia from Sweden. Ukrainian military has over 20% women. We give Ukrainian anti-aircraft defense. Can we give women in war zones anti-war rape defense? Is there one? And that actually is something that I am also thinking about, because we talk about how to deal with trauma, but how can we actually prevent it from happening?
I can share some from the Congo, from the outstanding program in the City of Joy for the survivors of sexual violence. In this area, over 35 years, the problem of sexual violence is horrific. So Dr. Mukwege with other people decide to organize space for the survivors of sexual violence and provide for them 6 months of treatment, like people staying in one place, they are doing some therapy, they are doing some other activity. And part of the program is self-defense, like physical self-defense, how to navigate yourself when you're in dangerous situation. When it in this particular culture is huge, because women, they are not allowed to be mad, they are not allowed to show other emotion, they repress their anger, they are dependable on men. So it's huge shift of this psychological activity and their ability to be more vocal and also protective towards themselves. So I think this is huge and great idea to spread the word about this activity around the places and encourage women to really use their power to protect themselves as a normal, not as a something specific or unique, only more like a norm.
So there should be a social campaign of which can be part of our campaign again. But it should spread more to as many societies internationally as possible. It is very important, yes. I can see that Anna unfortunately has to leave us soon, but we can continue for a few more minutes if everyone else can stay. I can stay. Also, I saw another comment. It wasn't a question, but it was a comment. We know that Poland is giving shelter to so many Ukrainian refugees, Ukrainian women, mostly children, and it's astonishing. And I would want to be part of this. I'm in the UK now, so I cannot be in Poland, but someone said that Poland is not inclusive. And I would like to broaden this subject and ask you what you think about this, and also like in terms of your countries you're now in. Do you think your societies are inclusive? Are they ready to accept a new norm and also accept people with such backgrounds and talk about it without taboos and so on, like what we also touched on when we talked about Kosovo?
Maybe just to recap what the historian lady said, I think for sure there need to be. I think in already in Ukraine, it's an organization who is providing legal assistance, psychological assistance, and medical support, led from Vladimir. And I believe they already offering some support to Tatiana and Ludmila in that perspective. But for sure, it is so important to document the cases. If there is a rape cases, if they want in the future to seek for justice, the documentation is a key issue. When I start my work, I faced for the first time this phenomenon. We didn't know, war was not so much open and there was no space for discussion. I think after SEMA network was created, led from survivors, and after Dr. Dennis and Nadia Murad were elaborated with Nobel Peace Prize, I think world was more, it is more aware about sexual violence as a weapon of the war, but also the needed action to be done. So in that perspective, I would encourage both Tatiana and Ludmila. I don't know, because I know that they are multitask oriented. There is a crisis situation, how much they could work on documentation. But it is so important, somebody there to deal with the documentation. As an organization, we are doing now a documentation project, working under transitional justice, right to truth. And it is so important really to document the stories of the survivors, because in each and every moment they are dying. And with them die part of our history. So for that reason, we are already now together with a women network organization who working in this field, similar field with survivor sexual violence. We reached to document around more than 700 stories of the survivor from a time that incident happened to the consequence they are facing later on. And this kind of documentation or archives, or how we can call it, it can be used for legislative change, for policy change, for working with the students and academia, working on research, working with the young generation, creating a new paradigm in society towards survivor sexual violence, addressing stigma and prejudice. So it is for an access to justice, which is very important. It's crucial for the survivors. So I would encourage our colleagues. I know that it's not easy to give now example or recommendation, because you are living in the war, and in the war, every moment might be fatal for everybody around there. So I really feel with you, but if somebody of you, or maybe the organization of Vladimir, could work on documentation or have some resource to document, I think it is so crucial in the future, really, to ask for justice for survivor, but also to work on prevention and also for future generations. So besides psychosocial, legal assistance, medical support, which is very crucial, I think documentation also is quite important element for the future in terms of prevention, in terms of justice, in terms of new generation. So you just have to think, and I don't know how we could support. We are willing in different format to support you or share any information you may need it, because we are working this project more than 3 years. It's quite sensitive project, but it is very important and crucial for ourselves too. So whatsoever we could support from our side, we are here, and just we need to be in contact and see how we can support you.
If I
wanted
may,
to say.
yeah, if I may, I would like to add something because of the current situation with war in Ukraine. So we are working in Poland to create a space for the survivors of sexual violence, meaning like following the lead from Kosovo, what I think is just the best example how to really navigate this topic. We try to bring some people, therapists, legal group of the lawyer who are working on human rights side, also medical doctors who are aware how to work with people who need medical attention, especially gynecologists, and bring some kind of team and also train themselves and each other, exchange some knowledge and also bring awareness to the other specialists, because people don't know about specific regarding rape during the war. Even therapists who are working with trauma, they are not well trained to really fully understand context. And this is not a competition between which kind of sexual violence is worse, only we need to know some specific to really address this issue in appropriate way. So I agree with Farida, like a part of the work is also to collect the stories for survivors for the future, maybe for their, when they decide to go to the next level and try to bring some justice, maybe for the future generations. So that's what we're working right now, to really create the safe space for people from Ukraine and also from people from Poland, if they will be able to share their stories.
Zhenya, are you able to summarize this a little bit to Tatiana as well?
Yeah, just before I do, I had a quick question. In terms of documentation, is there something you can recommend? Because obviously, you know, as it is an active war zone, what is the best way to collect these stories?
That's what I can say. Of course, I will encourage everyone who wants to receive any kind of support. This is not the most important to collect evidence. However, this is important because we are still talking about war activities. So it's not in your mind to collect something when something is happening to you. However, if you will feel like you want to share your story and you are looking for some specific support system, medical, legal, or therapy, we will be provide this kind of service for survivors of sexual violence, specifically for the survivors of sexual violence during the war. So that's mean like the story is enough. However, if you're bringing some other evidence, that's okay. So that's, you know, this is not like requirement to report your case to this group, what I am talking about right now.
Віола і Фаріда говорять про те, як важливо світу знати про те, що відбувається зараз в Україні, не тільки про війну, але все-таки, що відбувається з жінками, і як це можна якось записати, як це можна розповісти людям потім, щоб вони знали, як це впливає специфічно на жінок, солдатів, цивільних жінок. І вони хочуть сказати, що допомога психологічна, якась підтримка теж є, якщо ви або ви знаєте жінок, які це пережили, якщо вони хочуть цю допомогу підтримати.
У нас на даний час дуже розбомбили Чернігів, але ми знаємо, що в Чернігівській області були випадки зґвалтування жінок, дівчат. Ну, поки що йде військовий конфлікт, ми їх не знаємо, але ми їх, якщо ми виживемо, ми їх знайдемо і ми будемо з ними працювати і допомагати, і тоді потрібна буде ваша допомога і психологічна, і всяка підтримка, тому що тільки 18 днів війни, але зґвалтування ідуть, і ми про це чуємо. Не знаємо ми цих людей, але ми вже знаємо такі випадки, і їх дуже багато.
У нас на виході з Чернігова 2 ночі тому розбили колону жінок і дітей, які виходили пішим ходом із Чернігова, з міста, з окупаційного міста. У нас прицільно ведеться війна з цивільним населенням. У нас в Ніжині цієї ночі цілились по лікарні, слава Богу, не попали в лікарню, розбомбили рядом будинок. Не так по військових об'єктах іде обстріли, як ідуть обстріли по жилих кварталах і по лікарнях і дуже часто потрапляють під обстріл психоневрологічні заклади. Для наведення жаху, мабуть, в Україні. Ми не можемо зрозуміти мету Росії, мету Білорусі. Ми не можемо зрозуміти цього. Їх дуже багато зараз передітих в лісах. Вони всі йдуть в міста, вони з автоматами в жилі будинки заходять. Це робиться щось страшне у нас зараз.
They're saying that Chernihiv, which was very badly bombed, they're already hearing reports of women and girls who were raped there. They don't know them yet, but they are trying to get in contact. And then when they do, they will definitely be reaching out for support. She said that also two nights ago, a hospital was bombed, and what they're really seeing is that the military is directing their activity less and less at military bases and more specifically at civilian locations, and also at civilians who are trying to flee the city, most of whom are women and children. And she also said that a lot of the military are actually plainclothed and hiding out in forests and infiltrating cities that way.
Yeah.
Thank you, Zhenya. Thank you, Tatiana, and everyone. We're here with you. We are supporting you, and we admire your fight. And thank you for doing everything that you can. We can just feel. We can feel your courage, and we can feel that you are doing everything you can as human, really, to survive, to help each other as well. And we are here also to help you, and the whole Europe is looking at you and in solidarity and support, and everything that we can, we're trying to do as much as we can.
I was thinking,
Yes, of course.
Yeah, I was thinking that how many women, are victimized in the war time, and every 10 years we have war, and lots of women coming out with the same incident, and we were thinking that whoever helping those women from Ukraine are coming, they have to, if they're listening this program, our program, they have to think for the psycho-counseling also, this trauma. They have to emphasize on the trauma. And I think because they don't only need the physical support or economic support, they need psychological support. It's very important. And otherwise, I don't know, the world, where is going our world, our history and our civilization, I don't know actually. I'm very much disappointed, very much frustrated seeing those things.
I feel we are starting a new chapter in our conversation, how to stop it, because as you say, every now and then we have a war, and world is making the same mistakes.
Yeah.
And it feels unstoppable. It felt that it won't happen again after I am a European, so from the European perspective, that it won't happen, that there won't ever be a third world war. And now we don't know anything what will happen.
And
we don't know, but we can.
Are fighting,
but we are talking,
fighting,
yes.
Yeah.
Yes, and we try to support each other, build this international networking. I would like to make some comment because I see some reference to the Yazidi woman from North Iraq. And I think it's important to just say, like, we know, and I used to work with Yazidi group. In my book is one of the testimony of Yazidi a survivor Farida providing support system for the entire group in North Iraq. So even if we are not mentioning some specific area or some specific group, we try to be aware what's going on all over the places. In Ukraine right now, in the past, in North Iraq, in Kosovo, in Sarajevo, in other places, that is just difficult to mention everything. However, this is in our mind, try to connect. That's how SEMA works. SEMA, this is international networking, trying to bring all survivors in one right now more virtual space and to be aware of the conflict zone and consequences of the conflicts in specific areas.
And maybe because we have to finish at some point, I don't want to finish this conversation because it's absolutely important and we're learning so much from it. So maybe we can continue some other time, but SEMA, as I understand, was established by Donieck and who received a Nobel Prize.
I am a member of SEMA.
SEMA Kosovo?
Yes, SEMA Kosovo, and I mean it started in 2017, in June 2017, indeed, and later on it started as a retreat for survivors of sexual violence from post-war country and the country who are still in conflict. And later on, it was organized as a network, and now it's collecting more than 23 countries, I think, or 25 countries, which I do agree with Viola. There are from Yazidi community, from Bosnia, from Rwanda, from DRC, from South Sudan, from Colombia. So there is a group of mainly survivors from Bangladesh too, from Guatemala as well. So pardon if I forget some of them, but
there are lots of countries.
Yes. So all of the countries who went through the conflict or who are in the conflict have their representative, either mainly civil society, mainly survivors of sexual violence, but also some organization, few organizations who work directly with survivors of sexual violence. So we are working closely with each other in terms of advocacy, in terms of reparation, access to justice, and other initiative globally and nationally. So in terms of Yazidi community, I just want to bring maybe piece of the experience here. We, as a Kosovo, we served to the Iraqi parliament to establish reparation schema for Yazidi community and other survivors. And I had also chance to be in contact both with the state commission who will work with survivors on reparation, but as well as with NGOs just to share Kosovo experiences. And we are planning also to work in the future with them. So this kind of network is gathering the survivors worldwide to build the joint platform in terms of advocacy, in terms of justice, in terms of reparation, and in terms of prevention as well. And it's led from Mukwege Foundation and Nadia Murat's initiative. And I think from being this part of the network and being so voiceable internationally, I think international community now is able to listen, and there is some more action in this perspective. So therefore also SEMA Ukraine was created, and we were having a plan how to establish the organization, how to support them. But what we could do now in those war circumstances, at least we are with them. We will do as much as we can in those circumstances. We have to work and make more visible the whole situation in social media, because I think social media have quite big impact internationally and everywhere. We could think how we can support with medical supply. They already raised it as issue, but also psychological, legal aid and documentation is another aspect that network of SEMA in Ukraine have to think, and we are here to support with any kind of means and professional expertise we built till now. And we really pray as a country that already overpassed, it's just 20 years ago, that this situation will be stopped as soon as possible, and international community must take proper measure to just calm down, because otherwise consequences, as we could see every day, are such a huge and consequences in human being and mental health, but even later on after the war start, consequences are there present, and as we could see, they are also in new generations. So hopefully, not hopefully, but international community needs to take urgent action in order to stop the war in Ukraine.
There's lots of work that we have to do to protect us, to evidence the crimes. We haven't even touched on reporting the crimes to Hague. I know that there was a lot of work related to that in Kosovo, and takes me also back to what we spoke a little bit about Holocaust and Second World War, that at the time, nothing like this existed. And we don't know as much about victims and survivors of those times as we know now. So trying to be a little bit positive that we are a self-support network of human beings, women here present, but not only women, I know, going in the right direction. But at the moment, most important is to support Ukraine.
Yeah.
And this is why we have this panel discussion. We will post the discussion everywhere. Thank you for everyone who joined the discussion live as well. And we will be posting it on social media, on Twitter, and so on, everywhere that we can, and increase social awareness about it. And I always, in such events that I organized or initiated, I can feel during the event how important it was for everyone to talk about it. So thank you, ladies, for being with us, and thank you, Tatiana, Ludmila, for your time. And I hope that we will see you soon again, because it's also, I think, crucial to not only talk about sexual violence and so on, but take you away for a moment from that and be part of this, where we are all together in this democratic world.
Yeah.
So I hope that was also at least a little bit therapeutic for them.
Тетяна і Людмила, дуже дякую, що ви сьогодні до нас приєдналися, і що ми могли почути від вас про те, що відбувається, про те, як ми можемо вам допомогти. І ми всі надіємося, що це, звичайно, що війна припиниться як можна швидше, але до того часу ми будуть саме допомагати. Так що дуже дякую, що ви сьогодні з нами поговорили.
How you can say this in Ukrainian? Хвала Україн? Хвала?
Слава Україні!
Слава Україні!
Слава Україні!
Дякуємо, дякуємо. Bye.
Yes, bye.
Peace, yes.
Thank
you
you
so much.
Bye.
Thank you very much. Дякую.
Thank you.
Thank you.